Let's go ahead and move on to this. We have this up here. This is a story in two pictures. This is posted by Collion Noir back in 2019, and he says, Big Daddy Unlimited Leviathan Group Epic Shoot 2019. And let's see, the very next page is, of course, well, this is from Trellis Law. This is Leviathan Group LLC versus Big Daddy Unlimited Inc. So Leviathan Group LLC filed a general creditor case against Big Daddy Unlimited in the jurisdiction of Aluqua County. The case was filed in court. Anyways, the case complaint summary cut off because I'm not giving you a subscription says Leviathan Group LLC has filed a complaint against Big Daddy Unlimited for breach of contract in the Circuit Court of the 8th Judicial Circuit in Aluqua County, Florida. The complaint alleges that Big Daddy Unlimited Inc. failed to make payments regarding or related to some of their advertisements. Now, BDU was one of the biggest, earliest pushes by Leviathan, guys. I mean, back in 2019 or even before that, you could not watch a video from one of the top 5 gun tubers without getting a BDU ad. Because I watched a lot of those guys back in the day, I've probably seen 1,000 BDU ads. And of course, fast forward a few years, it's of course the Costco of the gun world, and they start having issues with inventory, not being able to ship products. I mean, if you go through the list of things that they've done, I actually have it written down over here. So, of course, they screwed their advertising partners out of millions of dollars because they stopped paying Leviathan Group. And that's a lot of money that Leviathan Group brings in. So, of course, relationships were good when the money was flowing. And as soon as the money stops flowing, of course, that's what the relationship was built upon in the first place. Now, they also tried to damage the FRT from Rare Breed. They tried to damage their case in court, which is ironic considering that they copied the FRT with their wide open trigger, and Rare Breed sued the wide open trigger, won against BDU, and took possession of all of their samples. We'll get to some of that stuff in a little bit. On top of that, they also participated in a gun buyback. And remember, at the height of their fall, or just before their fall, they started having issues actually shipping product to customers. So customers,
for their point of sale systems and their electricity and etc. But
continue. They stopped paying everybody except for themselves, right? So what ended up happening was they screwed their customers out of product, never shipped, and never refunded. So not only do they owe the customers, in my opinion, probably millions of dollars as well, but they also owe Leviathan Group, and a bunch of other people are probably taking out collections against them as well. So BDU, very specifically, BDU is in the hole for millions of dollars. However, the McKnights, through some somewhat clever navigating, let's say, have been moving around
business free, because that's what they've been doing since before BDU.
So I do need to give a very big shout out to the VSO Gun Channel, because he did a very, very good breakdown of all this.
Now, I'd like to be clear. I tried to check VSO's work, and I'm not that good at tracking down all the corporate inner workings, but I have corroborated some of this, just not all of this. So I'm taking it that Kurt knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, so this is, well, that's why that's the double-edged sword here. I'm giving VSO all the credit, but also blaming him for this if it's wrong, right? So this is stolen straight from his channel. Go ahead and check out his video on it. Great video breaking down the rebranding of Big Daddy Unlimited. He goes into great detail about all of these different companies, physical locations, all of that sort of stuff, basically everything that he could do. So essentially you have BDU. This is, of course, their main, which is at this point basically defunct because they're $5 million in the hole, let's say, if not a little bit more. You have high caliber firearms, which I'm not sure what they do. And then somewhere over here, you have performance triggers. And then also
high caliber is the one that took possession of their post-sample machine guns.
Yes. Yeah. Because they transfer them basically to another internal company is basically how that went. Andrew Vachon says that chart would make Sherlock Holmes blush. Yeah, no, Kurt did a lot of work on this. So again, go ahead and check out his video. I will have his video linked down below for those of you who are interested. It's a great video, and it's criminally underrated because it only ended up doing like 30,000 views. And for his channel, like some of his stuff gets like 250,000 views. And I would have thought that a video with this much work in it would have done better, but criminally underrated. So go ahead and check it out.
It did better on Rumble though. Just
did it really?
Throwing that out there. There's a Rumble version. There's a YouTube version. I suggest you go and watch the Rumble version. It's uncut.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. But he does have more information in the Rumble one. Okay. Moving on. So BDU is dead. BDU is in the hole. It's being sued by everyone and everything for everything that they are worth, which is probably nothing. Now, there's another Performance Triggers, which is essentially owned and operated by the same guys.
Possibly.
This is, in theory, right? Some of the same companies are linked to the same people, to the same funds group. So it looks like these guys are behind it. Anyway, so Performance Triggers has the reflex trigger for Glocks, the assisted reset trigger for AR-15s. Now, these are basically drop-in triggers for your Glock that would make it go binary. So basically pull and release. It sounds like a lot of fun. Actually, RTT in the channel, I think you've used a pull and release trigger, haven't you? Is it cool? I don't know where you got them. But anyways, Performance Triggers is selling that, and they kind of appear to be related to BDU, or at least the owners. And then you also have Fast Triggers. Now, Fast Triggers is just straight up reselling the wide open trigger, which BDU already lost that case in court and had to give over all of their samples to Rare Breed. And so Wide Open Triggers is now back, but just instead of BDU, it's on its own website by Fast Triggers. So it appears that they literally are just doing the exact same thing under a different company and trying to shield themselves from it.
And there's Trigger Parts USA. And I checked out all of these guys. None of them have an actual location. Performance Triggers is based out of a Staples, and
yeah, that's very funny. And that's all in Kurt's video, is that they're both based out of a PO box, a mailbox located inside of a Staples. Because like my business
FedEx
box, yeah, FedEx, whatever it is. But yeah, you can get mailing locations that are not physical locations, right? But to do this, you have to have somewhere a quote unquote physical location. And so a lot of these people and companies, if they don't want it tied to themselves. Now, something that I don't think he mentioned in his video is that you have these two registered agents down here. You have Northwest and regular registered agents that then transferred into Northwest. I want to say I have two registered agents because I had an LLC in Washington State and I have an LLC in South Dakota. So having a registered agent is basically necessary to run an LLC. So I have one as well. It's not necessarily a shady thing. They're just somebody who does all the documents for you so that you're legal within your state. Now, one of the options with my registered agent is I could actually use their address for my business if I wanted to. I don't do that. Everything is done out of my PO box, so there's no real issues there. But to hide your personal location, you can you can use a PO box, a FedEx, a Staples, anything else like this, or you can actually use the registered agent's physical location as the LLCs to kind of shield your information from the public eye. So these are some ways to get around with it. Now, one of the things that Kurt goes into is that this is possibly in violation of federal law because it's operating in different states. And so the people running these companies might, in theory, possibly be attempting to not pay taxes on their stuff, which, everybody does. I wish I could pay as little taxes as possible. South Dakota doesn't have a business tax. So it's already insane for me doing business here versus Washington State, where they took 6% off the top. Regardless, that's off of gross, not off of profits. Washington State took 6% off of the top just immediately, which is awful, versus South Dakota, again, no business tax. So yeah, again, alleged shell companies. Tyler K says potentially based. Yeah, I mean, we all get it, right?
Tax evasion is always based.
We all want to pay as little taxes as possible, right? We get it, right? So it's not a terrible, well, gosh, how do I say this? We get it, right? We understand the motivation behind doing something like this, but then you combine it with the reselling of a trigger that they've already lost in court. BDU lost that case in court, and now they're selling it through a different website and basically doing the exact same thing. So not only are they trying to shield themselves from like taxes, but also from like, civil law as well in that case. So very interesting.
Tax evasion is based. Opening yourself up and sponsoring gun buybacks is not based.
Yeah, again, so this is one little aspect of it.
Possibly based.
So strategically, it might be fine to be like, yeah, screw these guys though, because as Nick says, theft of IP is not based, which is what they did against Rare Breed. And then again, remember that they tried to hurt Rare Breed in court when they were going up against the ATF, which is just a horrible strategy. Plus the screwing of millions of dollars out of the advertising companies, out of the, power, electricity, all of those guys. Plus, of course, most importantly, the end user that bought stuff from BDU and never received it. So they lost, and some of them hundreds, some of them thousands of dollars just by never receiving product. Now, Gary, you've used BDC quite a bit. Why don't you talk about your experience?
I've used BDU a lot, and I honestly didn't have a problem with them. My 12.5 is like 90% BDU based. I've spent probably like $15,000 with them while they were open. So, yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't have a problem with them until they started sponsoring buybacks. So,
well, so that's the thing, and because I think the McKnights got into it as they had a novel idea at the time. It was a novel idea for the firearms industry, but they were never really believers or like gun people.
they're not 2A guys. They
No,
were
no, no.
like they saw the boom from Obama and were like, we can make money off of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there are a lot of people like that in the industry. Like when we were talking about SDI last week, like almost all of the top people now are either ambivalent to the Second Amendment or anti 2A in some ways, right? So that's why they're much more of a college approach, and they don't necessarily care about screwing people out of a lot of money.